Hello humans! My name is Diana Soto and this is 15 Minutes for Dance Life. And yeah, we're on day 2. So first of all, thank you to everybody that joined me yesterday. It was super exciting for me to read all your comments, the likes, and then I got some later feedback from the post, and I'm so very grateful to be sharing this experience with you. So just to recap, this initiative is born out of the idea that social distancing does not equal social disconnecting or communication distancing or even less creativity pausing. All right, so the whole point of this 15-minute section, we're going to be doing this every day at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time through Instagram Live. And the whole point of this is to make sure we take 15 minutes a day to kind of just slow down, pause. Hi, Diana. Hey, we have the same name. To slow down, to pause, and to develop a deeper conversation. All right. I feel like in these times, we are so rushed and we are so bombarded with all the news that are coming, and it's very important to stay informed and to stay up to date. But we don't want to fall into overwhelm, all right? We don't want to fall into analysis paralysis. And so cultivating these couple of minutes, 15 minutes every day to just have a different kind of conversation, more meaningful kind of conversation, I think it can be really, really helpful. And I thank you for being here and for joining me in this project, okay? So first of all, I wanted to comment on a comment that came up yesterday from Muñequita Linda PR. Great name, by the way. So yesterday we were talking about surrender and how it is necessary, how it is helpful to accept it as a departing point for life. Like suffering is part of life, and surrendering to that notion can actually end up being liberating. Hola Tania, ¿cómo estás? Yeah, everybody's joining in. Awesome. And so she said, and this is one of our comments from yesterday, so feel free to pitch in and make your own observations, that what could have been never was and never is. And I've never heard it phrased that way before, but I found it very helpful. Sometimes we stay stuck in that could have been, should have been, what if, especially right now, like, oh, I should have been working on this or doing that, and now it's not happening. And then we end up in that struggle instead of surrendering to our current reality, and then from that reality working forward. So I think this ties in greatly for the topic for today, which is growth in what the fuck times. I think this certainly qualifies as what the fuck times, don't you think? So how the hell do we grow in the middle of this? Okay, like, oh my god. So I have 2 quotes for you that kind of set the tone for what growth is and could be. All right, the first one is this, by Alain de Botton. We should not feel embarrassed by our difficulties, only by our failure to grow anything beautiful from it. I'll repeat that again. We should not feel embarrassed by our difficulties, only by our failure to grow anything beautiful from them. All right, so I found this quote incredibly interesting, especially because of that beautiful part, okay? So I think all of us have maybe some familiarity with this notion that we can grow in any kind of circumstances, and that, we should not feel defeated by difficulties. That's very common in our culture. We have surely heard it before, like fall down 7 times, get up 8 times, etc. But what I found interesting from this is not just like just growing from it or just standing back up or just doing something about the difficult situation, is to grow anything beautiful. So first of all, anything qualifies. Sometimes we forget all the beauty in our lives that we do have and that we can create and that we can cultivate. Second, beauty as a value. I think it's a value that it's very much forgotten in our society. And I'm not talking here about like makeup beauty, I am talking about beauty as a value, as a choice, as peace, as calm as the little things like setting up your bed in a really beautiful way that gives you peace. All right, that's what I'm talking about. So growth goes a little bit beyond just standing back up after a fall. Okay, growth is an internal process that manifests externally, and I think there are two aspects of growth that I would like to discuss today. And one is understanding growth as a sense of self-responsibility. All right, so growth is not something external or something that is up to society to provide for me or up to my job to provide for me, but it is guided by an inner compass. All right, that is actual growth, and it necessitates a sense of self-responsibility. What am I going to do about my growth? All right, so this means that we have to assume our own power and agency even during hard times. Okay, and I'm going to read you the second quote now. This one is by Rebecca Solnit, and I think it offers a pathway into growth. This is an extraordinary time full of vital, transformative moments that could not be foreseen. It is also a nightmarish time. Full engagement requires the ability to perceive both. Whoa, I'm going to read you that again. So, this is an extraordinary time full of vital, transformative movements that could not be foreseen. It is also a nightmarish time. Full engagement requires the ability to perceive both. So full engagement requires that we take the good with the bad, the beauty with the nightmare, and all of that is the realm of possibility. And from that full engagement, from that perception of all of it, the good and the bad, growth can actually come about. But first, you need to engage with all of it. All right, so that's the first thing, that growth necessitates a sense of responsibility. And in a way, panic is easy, you know, to panic in the face of deep challenges. It's understandable, and this is not about like beating yourself and whipping yourself into submission because you panic or you feel scared. I feel scared. I'm still scared, you know, and I'll probably be for a while. And it's totally okay to feel a little bit scared with all this, or a lot scared, you know, it's normal. But to stay there, that's where we are not helping ourselves, all right? And I say that in a way panic is easy because it sets you up as a victim. And then if you're a victim and you're in that victim mentality, you have no reason to act and you have no reason to engage. So you're just like, nope. But in the meantime, life keeps going on, okay? Life keeps happening. So that doesn't help you, and it doesn't help the world. And it's certainly not what we need right now. So to recapitulate, this first aspect of growth that I want us to keep in mind, growth, in a sense, is an act of self-responsibility, okay? The other part that I would like to keep in mind for all of us in this conversation is that growth is not linear, okay? I think we are very tempted to perceive growth as a graph, right? We've all been seeing graphs, certainly lately with the pandemic, and they all go like this, right? So it's either like up or down or like how high it is, but growth is not linear. Growth doesn't happen that way. And I see this a lot when I've been teaching dance. So in addition to being a communicator and a coach, I'm also an artist and I teach dance classes, and I see it a lot with my students that they expect that every day they're gonna get better. And that is both true and false. Every day helps to getting better. So in that sense, it is true. You're on your way to getting better. Every day you practice, every day you engage with dance or with any other new area you're trying to learn and develop. But it is false in that you're not necessarily going to see progress every day. That is not true. And actually something very, very, very common in dance, which is where I've worked it the most, but like I'm sure it happens in other fields too, is that you start and you see a lot of growth and then you hit like a plateau and you're gonna stay there in the suck for a long time. And then one day you have like a quantum leap and it just goes, it's like you pass to a whole nother level. But before that quantum leap, you probably had to stay in the sock for, a couple of months. And that is growth, okay? It is not linear, and yet it is important to stay fully engaged with your process, with the good and the bad, with the flow and the suck, so that eventually you can make that quantum leap, okay? So another example I can give you of this, and it's more of a personal story, but I find it very helpful in illustrating this concept that growth is not linear and that growth is an act of self-responsibility, is when I was just graduating from university, I broke my back. Like literally, one of my vertebrae broke down. I had to use a brace for a year, physical therapy for 2 years after that. So it was a very intense process. And as you can imagine, for a dancer, well, this was quite traumatic. And let's go over, skip over the frustration or the depression of that process. At some point, I realized that I love dance and that I could either block that out of my life or choose to engage with it in a different way. So I chose to engage with it in a different way. And since I couldn't dance myself, I just went to a shit ton of dance shows. And I never thought much would come out of it because dance is so physical. So if I wasn't dancing, I didn't think that would help me in my career in any way. I had actually given up on it, that I could dance. But what I found out is that eventually when my body recovered and when I recovered spiritually, all that information I had accumulated from those years in which I couldn't dance, but I stayed connecting to dance, watching shows, reading reviews, talking about dance, it just exploded. And my career took off after those 3 years of doing nothing, all right? I was not doing nothing, I was engaging. I was fully engaging with my field in a different way. So I would like to propose to you to consider how you can grow in unforeseen ways, okay? So this is your action step for today. How can you grow in areas that you hadn't thought of? Or how can you grow in the nooks and crannies of your life? So right now that our lives seem to be compressed, right? We are limited to our house, our routines have been upended. How can you grow in the nooks and crannies of your life? Because you don't know what that might do for you 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 1 year from now, okay? There is an incubation process to growth. I know, using the incubation metaphor with the virus is a little bit intense, but bear with me. I'm also getting all the news. But there is an incubation process to growth, so perhaps you can use this moment to cultivate the kind of growth you want to see in your life. From 3 months from now, 6 months from now, etc. So contemplate that. What are the nooks and crannies of your life where you can experience some kind of growth, any kind of growth, where you can grow something beautiful, all right? So, I have some recommendations for you. First of all is brainpickings.org by Maria Popova. I find her work so revitalizing and it is so beautiful. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with all the news, with all the stress, head over brainpickings.org, have a cup of coffee, read it for 5 minutes, you'll feel better, I guarantee it. And then another one, it's A Kind of Gentle Philosophy of Success by Alain de Botton. He has a TED Talk. He's a person I quoted in the beginning of this episode on growth, and he is amazing, and he explains philosophical concepts really, really well. So that's it for today, folks. I thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. I see here Kamal and Saba Design Studio Photography and Ricardo, Eddie. Beautiful. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll be posting all these videos on my YouTube channel so you can find them there. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Hasta mañana, humanos.